Good morning, world. Again, keeping up with our update of the Breaking Through Infinity series, today we're talking about the time frame. Because I often say that until you have a time frame, you actually don't have a goal just yet. And that's why today we're talking about 5 things to consider or 5 considerations for the time frame. The first is that the time frame must be realistic. Very often we find people say, hey, yeah, 3 months, 2 months, or they pick a number of months or a number of weeks or set a timeline, but the timeline is not realistic. What happens if you don't have a realistic timeline is that you're more likely to miss benchmarks, miss deadlines and things like that, which of course, once you start missing deadlines and you're not on track, once you start falling off track, you're probably more likely to give up or be discouraged. The second part is that the time frame or the timeline gives you a starting point as well as an end point. More often than not, when people decide they want to make a change or they want to set a particular goal, and there's no real time frame. You don't have a date by which to get it done, and you don't know how long it's going to take and all that stuff. So you're always able to keep pushing it back. You're always able to keep delaying. A time frame tells you, hey, I have 3 months to do this, and therefore if it's going to take me 3 months, I need to start at least 3 months ahead. And it helps you keep track of what's going on, which and brings us to number 3, where your time frame also helps you set the pace of work based on the time that you have available to you and the amount of work that you have to get done. That will determine how much work you have to get done, and of course how fast you have to do that work. And of course, and then it brings us to number 4, which it helps you keep track of your progress. Very often when we set goals, especially with goals with a distant deadline, for instance, something you need to do in 2 years or maybe 3 years down the road, a time frame helps you keep track of whether or not you're on track. Because if there are 20 things to do in 20 months and you're on month 3, you haven't done the first 2, that means that lets you know that you're off track. So a time frame or a timeline is a good way of helping you know or keep track of how you're doing or keep track of your progress. The final thing I will say about a time frame is that a lot of times people pick a random date or time. A time frame is very helpful when you personalize it. And the example I used last time was when I was working on my doctorate. I never really thought of the year that I was turning 30, but I always knew that I was turning 30. So I didn't have a year of graduation in mind, but I knew that I wanted to have it by my 30th birthday. So each time I thought of turning 30, then at the end of in my head was the thought that, hey, you need to get that dissertation done because you're turning 30 soon. So personalize the time frame. Maybe if it's a work related, maybe you set it for a particular anniversary. Maybe you set a personal goal for a birthday, an anniversary at home, or just something, a date that has meaning to you, a date that you're going to constantly be thinking about. That way, whenever you think of that particular date or that particular event, you're also going to be thinking of your goal. Quick recap. 1, make sure that your time frame is realistic. Give yourself enough time to do the work so that you're not always trying to catch up and you're not falling behind. 2, makes a time frame it gives you a starting point as well as an end point, so that you know when it's time to, you really need to get started so that you can get to where you want to be in that determined time. And the time frame is very good at helping you set the pace of work. So keep up with it because it tells you based on how much time you have and how much work you have to be done. The time frame helps you, set the pace of work. And the time frame also helps you track your progress, because based on how much time you have and how much you were supposed to do or are supposed to be doing, the time frame helps you keep track of how well you are doing. And finally, it's important to personalize the time frame personalize your deadlines. That way, when whenever you're thinking of that particular event that you're using to personalize, you can also be thinking of your goal, and that goal is always going to be, you know, in the back of your head somewhere. And yeah, again, I will make sure that I link the book Breaking Through Infinity somewhere on there, so make sure you get it. Right, that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.